Hello, we are now ready to begin the webinar. Hopefully everybody can hear me. My name is Vanessa Bagnato. I'm the VP of Product Marketing for Spike. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to put it in the chat box. I'll be happy to troubleshoot you. So before I introduce our presenter today, let me just go over quick housekeeping items. So this webinar is being recorded, and we will be sharing it via email tomorrow. There'll be a link for it. You're all on mute, so please use the chat box if you have any questions. And with that in mind, we will have a Q&A at the end, so we'll be reserving a lot of your questions for the end for James. I'm now pleased to introduce our presenter, James Pardue, who is the Senior Vice President of Spike Sales. Welcome, James.
Well, thank you, Vanessa, and thank you for that very warm welcome, and a very warm welcome to everybody that is joining us today here online. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day and allowing us the opportunity to share with you our technology, how our user community is using that technology, and an opportunity also to learn more about what you, the GIS community, and others are doing out there in the field. Before I get started, I just want to give a very hearty thank you to my friend and fellow geospatial colleague, Mr. Glenn Latham. Glenn was nice enough to host us here using his contacts here today. So very much of a thank you to him. And if you're not a reader or a subscriber to GISuser, I highly recommend that you are. Because it is a wonderful resource that is created by a very wonderful person, Mr. Glenn Latham. So Glenn, thank you so much. So let's go ahead and get started. So the webinar here today is on Esri Mobile Apps and Spike Photo Measurement. So I'll be talking a little bit about Esri Mobile Apps, and I'll also be talking about Spike technology and an integration that we have done between Spike and Esri Mobile Apps to really make a much better workflow for field data collection, and in a result, which is the result is a smarter GIS. Here's a quick look at the agenda just to give you an idea of what we're going to be covering today. I like to have a very concise agenda, so you'll see we'll walk through a couple things about both technologies, but then we'll get into a demo, because I always think it's very important to be able to get and show everybody what it is that we're talking about and be able to see that live. And then moving on into applications, how people are using the technology, answering the so what questions. Well, it's great that you can take photos and measure on those photos, but from a mobile device. But so what? What does that mean? And I'll cover that as well. One of the most logical places I like to start with is talking about the vision for Spike. Why is it that we built this technology? Well, having seen the list of registrants ahead of time, I can see that it's heavy in geospatial, which is great. And so we're all so very familiar with being able to measure from a photo and be able to do that. But today we do that from using very expensive systems, aerial systems, satellite systems. We've simply been able to figure out how to do measurement on a photo, be able to do that with a handheld device. Now, what does that matter? Well, we really do believe, and the industry is moving into where mobile is really the new gateway to GIS. Using devices, engineering level devices and all those other things to GPS to a high rate of accuracy and all those other types of things, are those still going to be necessary in the future? Absolutely, those things won't go away. But what we see is that just a huge trend where folks are seeking to use smartphones or tablets more than just in a personal context, more than just checking email, checking their calendars, making phone calls. We have a mini supercomputer in our pockets, right? So how do we put that investment in cellular technology to work? And one of those ways is to use it for mobile field data collection. Well, that's great, but how do we open up the mobile field data collection capabilities of a smartphone or a tablet? Well, we looked at it from a measurement perspective. How do we allow people to be able to do simple things, such as measure the height of a building, or measure the distance between a piece of critical infrastructure and something that's hazardous, maybe a dead tree or something like that? And how do we make that just incredibly easy? Because in our view, those measurements can be made simpler. There's an expectation that measurement tools should be intuitive to use, and that should be accessible to those that need them, and be able to take those measurements and then plug those into wider mobile applications, such as a GIS or a geodatabase. But we've also seen, especially in the technology world for local governments, federal and others, that they're really looking to leverage investments that they've already made in their GIS, but also in mobility. Because we already have Trimble devices, we already have Leica devices, which are all great, and we're buying these iOS and Samsung devices, and those things have become disparate. How do we get those devices, such as an iOS or a Samsung device, working to collect data and do it in a way that is compatible with the data that we've already collected with these Trimble, these Leica, or these Topcon devices? So our vision was to be able to to create a unique measuring capability for geospatial, right? So measuring buildings, measuring distances and distance to targets, and capturing GPS information, and to make it so simple and easy to use that any field worker would be able to do it. When we were building this solution, and when I mean we, I mean ikeGPS and Esri, were saying, okay, we have Spike and we have these things called Survey123 and Collector. What is it that we're really trying to do? And a lot of what we've been trying to do is to get that workflow in the field of getting from data from the field into a file geodatabase better, into a GIS better. And what were some of the barriers between doing that? And so we just went out and we asked a lot of people, hey, why is it that you're not collecting field data? Or why is it you're not collecting more field data? And the answer was always universally the same. It's too hard to set up forms, too hard to manage the data, too hard to train people on the technology, to do QA, QC, to get data back, and then cram it all into the geodatabase. But the other piece was that it was just too expensive. And you heard me talk about accessibility already. Well, there's accessibility in how do you train people, but also can anybody be able to afford this? So I'll just get right out front here and tell you, so Spike is a $500 device. Works with an app that's free. So you look at that in comparison to the other technologies that we've been using over the last 10, 15, 5 years, right? That's a completely different game changer when it comes to cost. But these users were telling us is that because it was too hard and it was too expensive, they either A, just didn't try, or B, they just said, well, we're just going to let our engineers and our surveyors collect this type of data. And, there's only a small subset of engineers and surveyors, usually in most state and local governments or in organizations. And because of that, that creates a bottleneck because there's only so much data that they can go out and collect. But we know that there is a tremendous amount of data yet to be collected, data that just isn't being collected because it's too hard and it's too expensive. And once again, that drives to our vision, not only for Spike, but also for Esri, but taking complex measurements, making it easy, not requiring complicated tools. In fact, it should be easy as using your smartphone. And there should be ways to leverage your existing technologies, your mobile technologies, and your investments in ArcGIS, and be able to create a complete from beginning to end workflow that could be specifically designed for a novice or an intermediate user, and have it be cost effective and deliver the data that you need in a cost effective way. Isn't that great? It's pretty great. If you think about it, this is the first time that has really existed for the user community in geospatial, architectural, engineering, construction. I'm really proud of that we've been able to build that workflow, and I'll walk you through that process and how we do that and all those other, and all the functions of Spike and all those other things, and demo that live. But today, Spike is relied upon every day by tens of thousands of users all around the world in 16 different languages to do asset inventory, GIS data collection of all sorts of different types, facility management, real estate, you name it. The list of users go on. We'll touch on a few as we go through here, but you get the idea. Now, how does Spike work, and how does Spike go about this business of collecting data from a mobile device? Well, one of the favorite things that we like to say is that we bring measurements and GPS location within reach for millions of new users simply by taking a photo. So we're taking photos with a mobile device, a tablet, or a phone, and then we're measuring right on the photo itself. So once again, just like you probably have done thousands of times with satellite imagery or aerial photography, but doing that with a photo that was taken from a mobile device. And we really do believe, in our user community tells us, that Spike forever changes the way that you expect your mobile field data workflows to be forever, just because it's as simple as point, click, and shoot. And because we've done such a great job of doing that, we've been able to make a significant impact in a multiple array of applications. Believe it or not, a lot of what we did with Spike originally started with defense and intelligence agencies, because they have a need to measure and locate things, right? But for them, it was, how high of a wall do I have, so I know how much strategic ladder I need to get over, or tactical ladder I need to get over, or rope to get down. What are the width of my breach points, doors, and windows? But think about that, right? If you're a contractor, let's just say you're a paint contractor, or you're a facilities manager. For you, that's how much wall do I have versus windows and doors, and how do I just subtract that and be able to get a nice simple estimate of that right away. And then I have a photo that I can put into an RFP if I'm putting that out for bid, or just for my own facility. So I can sit there and say, look, here it is. This is how much area that I have that I need to cover. But it also translates into emergency response and insurance. So, with a very active hurricane season last year, unfortunately, we were very busy, where we supported the insurance companies of deploying hundreds and hundreds of spikes out, because it gave them a very simple and easy way to be able to collect data about the damage of a building or other asset, because we're capturing location, and capturing location from a distance, be able to get that from a safe distance away, but also be able to tie it to a parcel. That's incredibly valuable. But we're also doing things in retail and signage. If those people that build those Papa John signs, they gotta have measurements of scale and how to build those things, and so they use it quite a bit. And transportation agencies and others, but state and local government, defense, the applications are endless, because I'm sure already your mind is exploding, going, man, how many times have I wished that I had a tool like this, to be able to measure the height and the area of a building, or the height of a tree, or the distances between things, or I needed to be able to locate something that was on the other side of a fence that I just couldn't get access to. And so, I'll show you some more examples of that as we go along, but it just, helps sort of lay the table for some of the discussions we're going to have a little on about field data collection. So, ask yourself, right? So now that you know some of the basic pieces here, is it, why aren't you doing more field data collection? Is it because it's too expensive? Is it because it's too hard? What are some of those other reasons? And how do we go about solving those challenges? Because I'm sure that you will agree, field data collection can and is a lot of times the Achilles heel for many GIS professionals. You may have done field data collection, or maybe you had inherited the field data collection for others, but it's costly, hard, time-consuming, resource-heavy. Sometimes it's not safe, but also there's a lot of data, as you heard me say before, that's just given up on because of the fact that, well, I know it's a point line on a polygon. I know it's a tree, it's a road, it's a building, but I don't have any other pieces of information about that would be incredibly useful, ranging from, if it's a tree, what's its health, what's its height, what's its width, what's its species. For a building, how many windows, how many doors, what are the dimensions of those windows, what are the dimensions of those doors, what are the dimensions of each side of these buildings. These aren't always commonly known. And so what I like to think of is that I like to think of, of Spike as a way to be able to add spatial information that just doesn't exist because it's been too hard or it's been too expensive. Kind of coloring, bringing color into a GIS, if you will. So what's the technology behind Spike? Well, Spike itself is a laser device, and so these are the devices here. We have 3 different attachment modes, but they all work the same. It's just how they attach is different. The laser rangefinder connects via Bluetooth to the mobile device and the app, right? So we're a mobile solution, so everything that we do is tied with mobility. You got to start with a mobile device, so a smartphone or a tablet. We work with iOS and Android devices only. So we do not work with Windows devices, nor do we have plans to work with Windows devices. So if you're a Windows user, I certainly do apologize, but that's the direction that we've gone. And the laser rangefinder Bluetooths into the smartphone or to the tablet. And with the smartphone or tablet, that is where we use the camera to be able to take the photo, but we also use the GPS, inclinometer, compass, all that handy information from the mobile device to be able to photo rectify the photo itself, so that our measurements are accurate. And that allows us to accurately measure distances to remote objects. So now once we have the mobile device, we have that down. We have a Spike mobile app, comes in 16 different languages. It is available for free in the Google Play and Apple app stores. So you just go ahead and download that like you would Angry Birds, Candy Crush, whatever your favorite is, and you just go ahead and download that, and then you have everything that you need to be able to measure on your mobile device using the Spike app and solution. And from that, we allow you to be able to capture measurements from photos, including areas, heights, widths, elevations, distance to target, GPS locations, on and on. Now, some of you, when I said that we're capturing GPS from the mobile device, you went, oh, that's not great. And the answer is, depending upon your application, that is true. We have a lot of local government users who have GPSed everything to death. Now they're going back and they're adding information into it, such as, the height of the fire hydrant, above grade and all this other stuff. They already know where that is, so the location isn't a part of that. So they're just navigating to those spots, taking Spike, and then adding them into the existing metadata that already exists in ArcGIS for those things. But if you're collecting new information, well, you know that with a smartphone or tablet, on a good day, your accuracy is 3 to 5 meters. It could be worse. It could be 15. It could be 30. That's not great. So the question usually comes up somewhere along the line is Spike compatible with the common third-party GPS receivers that are out there? And the answer is yes, they are. And we've had really good experience working with the Juniper Geode, Bad Elf, the Trimble R1 and R2, EOS, Arrows, all of those Bluetooth in. If your GPS wasn't covered, or and you're wondering, it's like, well, will it work? The answer is that it could. Just these are the ones that we know our user community have used and to give us a thumbs up on, and we've tested as well. Just all that has to happen is that GPS has to be able to have a code with it that tells the mobile device to stop using its own switches for its own, for that third-party GPS signal, and then makes that third-party signal available to be read by the Spike app. So if you have things like a Garmin Trek or things like that, that's not going to work. You really need to have something that's more geared towards less recreation, more towards geospatial collection, like these good folks here. We've also done software integrations with Esri Mobile Apps. I'll be talking about Survey123 here. We've started work on Collector and making that available, and that should hopefully be available here in the next coming months, ready in time for this field season. But also with Autodesk and Adobe Illustrator, because the export file formats that we do are just simple JPEG, PDF, XML, JPEG, PDF, XML, hyperlinks, and all sorts of other things. I'll cover that in here in just a little bit. But they're just the same file. So anything that could open up a PDF file, there's nothing special about our PDF file export. You can take it, manipulate, work with a photo, and do different things. And what I really like about Spike is that Spike doesn't try to do too much. Because remember, You know, we're targeting novice users here. We're about the mobilization of a workforce, getting 10, 15, 20 people trained in less than an hour, going out and collecting data for some need, whatever that is that might be. Maybe it's code enforcement. Maybe it's graffiti control. It could be any number of different things. And so we want to make the operation simple, but when you make the operation simple, the types of field data collection that you're doing has to be simple to do also. And these are the ones that we're doing. And so these are sort of the magic four, if you will, of functionality that we do. So the first is that we measure distance to a target. Now you may say to yourself, well, how special is that? Well, if you've ever tried to do that in the field without a tape measure or something similar, it's not that easy to be able to get that information quickly. And then, because then you have to manually write it down to do all these things into a form. With Spike, it's as simple as point, click, and shoot that I can get. That if I'm here on the road and I see this silo and I want to know the distance to that, I just point the laser at it, take the photo, and I've captured that distance to target. The other thing that we do is that we capture the target location as well as with the distance offset as well as the location of the phone device, right? So as you can see here in this KMZ export, I've captured where the Spike location is, and then there's my target location, as well as the photo for reference and all those good things, distance to target. That's all captured within the metadata. Think about how many times or how useful it would have been that when you have a feature that's either say maybe across a river, that's in private access that you can't get access to it or whatever reason, to be able to capture this type of information. So that's distance and two forms of GPS location that we do. But then we get into the measurements. We do two types of measurements. First is photo measure. And what photo measure is that is measurement on a 2D plane. So imagine like a wall or on the ground or on a sign like you see here. With that, we're able to get plus or minus 1% accuracy with our measurements. Point-to-point measurement is measuring distance between 2 points. So imagine the distance between, say, 2 trees, or measuring the distance between objects that are not on the same plane or on a 3D plane. That is plus or minus 3% accuracy. So what is it that we really mean when we talk about plus or minus 1%, plus or minus 3% accuracy? Well, what you see is that we go through the demo here later in just a little bit. You know, we're asking people to put fingers on photos or a stylus on a photo and do different things, and because of that, there's an error involved. But what plus or minus 1% means is that if something measures 10 feet in the real world, plus or minus 1% on either side of that measurement, that is a good measurement for us. So there is a variance there, and that variance is as a result of the method that we used. So if you're looking for a precision measurement, Spike is not the right product for you. This is more of an estimation product, a higher precision estimation product, if you will. And Vanessa right now in marketing is going, I can't believe you just said that. But the point is that it's meant to be the best possible estimation solution on the planet, and that's exactly what Spike is. The best way that I know how to explain it is that Spike is a great way to estimate, say, how much siding that you would put on the side of your house, but it's not the tool that you would use to be able to cut that siding to place it on the side of the house. If you need precision measurements, you need to use precision tools. And I spend a little bit of time on this because it helps folks to really understand where Spike sits as a as a tool in your toolkit. So just a quick look at the Spike. The pieces of the Spike: laser emission lens here, receiving lens here. This is a smartphone version, so this is this uses a smart clamp to clamp on the outside of it. That is the release button for that. If you're working with a tablet version, that uses sticky tape on the back, which works extremely well. So make sure you like where your Spike is when you put it on your mobile phone or your tablet, because it's going to be on there for a while. And then there is an OtterBox version, which uses the OtterBox case system, which is my personal favorite, just because it allows you to be able to easily take the Spike on and off, much like the smartphone tablet. But much like the smart clamp feature here, but it's a little bit more secure to be able to take on and off. It does require a case, a separate OtterBox case that we do provide. but the smartphone and the tablet versions, don't require any special cases. They just will work with any will fit over any smartphone or tablet case that you have. This is the brains of the operation down here with the power button, micro USB charging port, and an LED indicator to let you know that the Spike is on, off, paired, or trying to pair. When it comes to charging, takes about 2 hours to do a full charge. Once it's charged, Spike will operate for 4 to 6 hours of continuous use. That is more than enough for most applications to last a couple days, because when we say continuous use, that's sort of like photo, 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 photo. I don't know a lot of people that have the stamina or the patience to do that, but Spike easily will capture hundreds of photos in a day. But we do recommend that you do charge it after every field day use, especially if you're using it over and over and over again. Some specs. iOS or Android, we talked about that already. What about the size and weight of a Spike? Well, it's small, and as it should be, because you don't want to add a lot of extra weight or girth, to the mobile to your mobile solution. So it's a little over 3.5 ounces. Does connect via Bluetooth. Uses an eye-safe laser, so it's not using one of those red dot lasers. And the reason for that is that because and you'll see we use a reticle to be able to aim the laser on the screen. And the reason that we do it that way is that because the range of the laser is so far, right, 200 meters or 650 feet. You'd never be able to see this red dot anyway at 650 feet away. So how do we allow people to be able to accurately target something? And so we use a reticle that's on screen to be able to do that. But once again, think about that. Just having a laser rangefinder that goes out to 650 feet for less than $500, that's pretty amazing. And then you put other things in there like that functionality about the different measurements that we do. That's just incredibly useful as well. So we talked about the accuracy, but we didn't really talk about the laser distance accuracy. That's going to be accurate within plus or minus 5 centimeters or 2 inches. So that distance measurement is really closer to precision. You can do units of measure, feet, inches, meters, centimeters, however you like. It does use an internal lithium-ion battery. Output file formats: PDF, JPEG, scaled image, Spike file, which is an XML file, KMZ, and URL. So you have a wide range of different options. So if you just want to do point, click, shoot, and report on a JPEG or a PDF, you can go ahead and do that. You want to do more fancy geospatial types of things with Survey123 and others, you can go ahead and do that. Once again, it's designed to be just a really nice, simple, flexible, effective tool at an affordable price. So you've heard me talk a couple times now and kind of thrown this out in conversation here today about building a smarter GIS with Survey123 and Spike. What is it that I really mean by that? Well, I'm going to go back to some of the things earlier that I said in the vision statement about mobile being the gateway to GIS. So much data today already comes passively from mobile devices into a GIS. We believe, and the industry agrees, that a lot of future data will come from mobile devices. And so when we talk about that, and we go back to it's too hard, it's too expensive. There's got to be affordable tools out there to enable people to go out and do it, but not only does it have to be affordable, but it has to be usable, and it's got to be effective. And so everybody I will bet on this call has done field data at some point in their lives, and you look at it as either a blessing or a curse, maybe sometimes both, right? But there's just a lot of things that goes on with collecting field data. And it's one thing to collect data in the field, it's completely another to store it, to control it, to analyze it, and do things with, right? And that's, once again, it's one of the things I'm just so proud of what we've been able to do with Spike and the integration with Survey123 and getting data into a file geodatabase and making it as easy as we can, is that it's an integration that provides a combined tool set that not only boosts field data capture productivity, provides a high ROI, but also takes advantage of things that you've already invested in. You already have Survey123 and Collector as part of, probably as part of an enterprise agreement that you already have with Esri. You already have mobile field data devices. So how do we open those capabilities up with mobile field data collection? And Spike and Survey123 is our first step into doing that, because it's as simple as creating a Survey123 form. And if you're not familiar with Survey123, Survey123 is a great addition to the Esri Mobile Apps family, because it covers some of the things that Collector just can't do, such as having really detailed form-based field data collection. So believe it or not everybody is comfortable doing field data collection or and doing map-based field data collection. I know, shudder the thought. But the thing is that we're actually kind of special. We're very comfortable with maps. The rest of the world isn't always that comfortable. They're more comfortable with using survey forms, right? So I see this, and then once I see this tree, what's the width of this tree? What's the height of the tree? What's the crown width? What's the trunk width? What's the species? And all these other things. What's around it, right? Having that type of field data collection and the capabilities is content, and content is key. Content is key in analysis. You can almost never have enough information. I almost said it. I almost said a sinful thing. I almost said you can't, there's no such thing as too much information, but everybody in this call would laugh. You know that's not true. You can, and you've drowned in it sometimes. But once again, going back to Survey123, right, it's a way to organize it and categorize it and control it, so that you're going out and you're collecting data with a Spike, capturing information about tricky things like this, right? So, if you're lucky enough to have the as-built plan for that, great. You know what this is, and you know how high it is and how wide it is, but what if you didn't? Or what if the as-built left off certain things, right? You have the capability to collect data, and then that data is automatically loaded into Survey123 forms, which are then easily controlled and then brought right into an ArcGIS, updating that file geodatabase. Now think about what I just said. You have a device that allows you to be able to capture data in the field that's automatically populating measurement data and location data into a form. And then that form is then can be controlled in a lot of different ways, everything from GeoEvent server and other different things, whatever your thought might be on it, with using Esri to go ahead and do that. But you can automatically update a file geodatabase. And not only that, you can do some really cool things. And so one of the coolest ones is Colorado DOT, and I'll cover that later. But it's amazing about how they've sit there and they've taken this technology and said, not only am I going to use Spike to do field data collection, and not only am I going to use Esri to help me do that field data collection, but I'm going to use all sorts of Esri apps on the back end to help me make decisions and then tell people what to do and where to go using other mobile apps. It's really super cool, and I look forward to sharing that with you. But anyway, I got a little bit ahead of myself on this slide when we already talked about Survey123. But Survey123 is available in iOS and Android, and the simplicity and the ease of use and the effectiveness of Survey123, especially in relation to Collector, is great. Collector's good for going out and doing certain things, but in Survey123 is just a little bit different. I won't spend a lot of time talking about the differences. Actually, I won't spend any time talking about the differences other than what I've talked about so far with Survey123 and Collector. Other than Esri does a really nice job with some of its webinars to have that discussion, and I encourage you to take a look at that on your own. But we like Survey123 because of the fact that it allows us to be able to add this type of attribution into new or existing data sets that you're going out and collecting, and bringing that into ArcGIS. And so I will demonstrate this here shortly, but working with Spike and Survey123 is literally as simple as I have my form, I take it out into the field. You'll notice this really cool looking Spike icon here. And that is there in replacement of a camera icon that you would normally see there. And what that is that that's telling that person is that when you exceed this and you're going to collect information about this building or this tree or whatever it might be, is that you're going to use Spike to do that. And so what you do is that you click on the Spike icon, It then fires off the Spike app. You point the laser at the object of interest to take a photo. And here we're going to be doing a photo measure. And then once you do that, you can measure lengths, areas, offset distance, all those things that we talked about as a part of that process. So here we're doing a photo measure. We have a 2D plane, so we're measuring heights and widths and different things. I want to measure the width of this road, and so I'm measuring the distance to a target. So I'm standing on the side of the road, pointing it to the edge. So this could be a road, this could be a river, this could be an outflow, from from a point source pollution. You want to know the distance, to the wetland, or vice versa, right? Point, click, shoot, loads into the forms, submit into ArcGIS, and I'm done. Just couldn't be that much easier, right? And think about how much time and effort that you have put into not only just the field data collection, but getting that data back into a file geodatabase. And the second thing that I'm really proud of is that I really do believe that we've created one of the simplest ways possible to update a file geodatabase. And after you've tried it, I think you'll agree, and I know that our user community certainly does agree as well. So let's go ahead and let's get into a demo. All right, so what I'll do here is that I'm going to reflect my screen onto here. So just give me a second to go ahead and set that up. There we go. Sorry, this just takes a second because sometimes it goes quick, sometimes it doesn't. There we go. So for this particular demo, I'm going to be using an iPad Air 2 with my Spike. Whoops, come on, get in here. Let me kind of get this squared and set up here. All right. And so you should be able to see that here on screen. And so I have my two apps here. I have Survey123 and I have my Spike app here. Now for this demo, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with the Spike app, just to kind of give you a look and see what that is. So you may see here that it says your Spike is disconnected. So this tells you that your Spike isn't on and isn't Bluetooth connected. It's also what we like to call being sales proof. So I just go ahead and turn on my Spike. It tells me that is the Spike that's available for me to connect. I go ahead and do that, and then it tells me my Spike is connected. Thumbs up, sales guy. And that it tells me my battery power, so I know if the battery is draining or it needs to be charged, but that's all available. Here's my two measurements, photo measurement and point-to-point, so I'll show that to you in just a bit. Gallery is where I go to be able to look at photos and see photos that I've worked with in the past. One thing that I haven't mentioned up to this point, and is worthwhile to mention now, is that these photos are actually dynamic photos. And so what I mean by that is that if I've gone to the field and I've forgotten to do something, and I know that doesn't include anybody that's on the call here today, let's just say that's me, but if I forgot to do a measurement of something, I can always go in and do it a second time. And so what I'll do is that I'll just go ahead and do that, and let's just say we'll just go ahead and just add something in here. Move up here, go ahead and do that. And so maybe I just want to go ahead and measure that, or I want to measure another sign or do something like that. I just go ahead and I hit save, and all those new measurements are just added into the photo. So the photo is live and dynamic. Now think about that. That's a new type of attribution that's never existed before, is that you've got a file that exists that gives you a record of your feature that can be updated at any time. It's pretty radical. Something like that's never really existed before. And the fact that you have a photo verifiable record of those measurements, for the first time, you will know exactly where those measurements came from in relation to what features, so that you have more confidence in those measurements. So let me go back out, and then whoops, that's gallery. Settings is where I go to set my units of measurement, to do any sort of calibrations that I might want to do some specific calibrations, so on. Set up a cloud account, so we actually have, so if you want to take your photos and upload them to the Spike Cloud, that is something that we make available as well. Spike Cloud is also free, but allows you to be able to measure photos. So if your photos are not, if it's measuring photos on a tablet or a phone is not your thing, you want to do that with your desktop, you can go ahead and do that. Just know that when you're doing that, though, right now we haven't integrated that part with Esri and the Esri Mobile Apps workflow, which I'll go ahead and demonstrate now. But if that's something that you would like to see, make sure you let us know, because we're always working on our continued integrations with Esri as customers and users say, hey, this is really something that I'd like to have. So let's go back out to Survey123. So I just go ahead and click on Survey123 for ArcGIS. So this is just a simple form that we've put together, right? So this would be something that if you were a GIS admin, that you were to create and then to be able to make available to your field crews. It would go on a mobile device. I go ahead and I open that up, and I'm going to be ready to collect. So I'm going to go ahead and go out and do that, and it's going to load up my survey. And what we've done for this particular demo is to call out each of the measuring functions individually, right? So measure distance to an object, measure the area, length, do the location of an object. All those things are broken out as individual tasks. In Survey123, you don't need to do that. We just do that to be able to demonstrate the functions, but you can combine multiple measurements into one collection. So for example, if I wanted to measure the distance to an object and the area to an object, as well as get the GPS location, I can write the question in Survey123 to have Spike and communicate and deliver all those things into my Survey123 form. So I'm just doing that with one photo. Otherwise, here what we're doing is that every time we do this, we're doing photos, which is okay. It's file sizes and things like that. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So let's say, for example, that I just want to measure the distance to an object, and I want to measure the distance to an object because maybe I'm an insurance adjuster, or I'm somebody looking at liabilities, and I'm looking at sickly tree. So I just go ahead and that Spike icon. There's my sickly tree. I don't want that to hit my house, so I'm just going to go ahead and point it. And by the way, you'll notice that as I move this around, see that little reticle? That's what's giving me my distance to target. 7 feet, 7 inches. And as I go around here, 7 feet, 9, 8, so on. Well, that's the distance that I'm going to capture. Another application like this would be is that if I was doing some environmental work and I wanted to capture distances of things from a transect. This is a great way to do this too. Maybe this is a invasive species. It looks like it. So I'm going to go ahead and capture that. So I'll just go ahead and click that. At the bottom, back to Survey123, there is the photo for my reference and my distance to target. I've set this in meters. That's why you may look at that and go, James, come on, that wasn't 2 inches away or 2 feet. No, it's 2.76 meters. You can change this to whatever you like, but that just tells you how simple that field data collection is. Have you seen field data collection that simple? I haven't. Since coming on board, there's a lot of writing and other things and transferring. These are all error magnets, right? The whole idea is to make this simple, easy, controllable. So now let's say I want to measure the area of an object. So once again, I'm in my Survey123 form. I'm going to click on my Spike icon. When I go ahead and I do that, fires up the Spike app, and let's say kids and their graffiti. This is what I want to measure. I go ahead and take a photo. And then what happens is that the laser, because we're doing a photo measure here, right? So laser gives me distance to target, so that gets me scale. But I'm at a slight angle here, so I need to adjust the alignment for this. And so what I look for is I look for a natural occurring rectangle, and I have that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my finger, and I'm going to put them on these green little dots here, circles, and I'm going to find a natural occurring rectangle, which I have. And you notice when I do that, see how this little imaginary grid here is shifting around? Well, you can see how I'm setting that alignment so that I'm setting that perspective correctly. And so There we go. That's good enough for demo purposes. I go ahead and do that. I go ahead and I hit next. And then I just want to get the area of this, right? So I just go ahead and do that, right? So, and by the way, if I wanted to tune this better, I can. How do I do that? Well, one is that you'll notice is that as I move my finger around, as I do that, it gives me a zoom up in that upper right-hand corner of getting that just right. It looks like that I've done that because, you know, these papers are 8.5 by 11, right? And then do that again here. Or what I can do is that I can just use the good old pinch and zoom. Oh, and sure enough, I was off just a little bit. But anyway, so I've gotten what I need. I go ahead and I hit save. I've measured the area of the object. There's that photo for reference. I have that. There's my area, my number of dimensions, edges. I can set this up in any number of things. Once again, this is all in meters, so my apologies. But you get those dimensions and it's captured. And then let's just go ahead to estimate the location of an object. So let's say, for an example, you know, suspicious package, something like that. Well, hit the spike. There's my suspicious package. Somebody has thoughtlessly left their backpack behind. I just go ahead, take the photo. There's the photo for reference, GPS location with a distance offset. And remember, once again, I could do this up to 650 feet away. Pretty cool, right? But not only cool, pretty darn useful. So now that I've done my field data collection, I say my survey is completed. Send my survey off. I have just updated my file geodatabase. I have captured a distance to a target to a tree. I've measured the area of graffiti. I've located a suspicious object. I've done this in less than 5 to 7 minutes. That is a significant ROI shift compared to what's available for most folks today. The one other thing that I want to show you is a new feature that we're getting ready to put into Survey123, and that's called point-to-point measurement. Now, we expect this to be ready in about 30 to 45 days. Now, you heard the expected, right? So anything can happen. We're on track here, but our goal is to get this done in time for the mobile field data collection season. But we have that other function, right, called photo measure, right? So that was one of the measuring functions. Where's point-to-point? Well, we only release photo measure in the first release to Survey123. We'll be releasing point-to-point here, like I said, in the next 30 to 45 days or so. And point-to-point looks like this, right? So point-to-point, remember, is measuring not on a 2D space like we do with photo measure, like on the ground or on the wall, but between two objects. So let's say, for example, that you remember that suspicious package that we had, and I want to measure the distance between, say, something else, anything. So I just put the laser on it, I hold it steady, take the first photo, and we'll measure up to here. Take that second photo, and it gives me the distance between those two targets with photos for reference. We'll be adding that into Survey123 here shortly. So those are all the measurement functions that I've demoed. Those are all the GPS and distance functions. I hope they've started to give you some really good ideas about how Spike can make a huge difference in your workflows. All right, so back to the presentation for a couple of slides, and then we'll get back into questions. What projects and applications are ideal for Spike and Survey123? James, what are users doing today with Spike, and how are they making things happen? By far, our biggest group out there, user community that's picked this up and that's using it, are transportation agencies, state DOTs, city metros, because they just have a need to have to manage measurements, capture measurements of a tremendous amount of things, but they also have a huge safety component to them. Don't walk out into the traffic, don't walk out on the rail, dodging airplanes, right? Those are real things. So Spike is a great fit for them. Also because of the fact that you know, there is a limitation of engineers and surveyors, and you know what, they should be working on engineering and surveying types of things. They shouldn't really be working on this type of simple field data collection. Anybody can do that. And so imagine putting that to work. Public works and public safety, measuring everything of distances to valves, to hardscapes, like sidewalk inspections, inspections of pipes and other things like that, just doing very basic, simple things that anybody in a maintenance capacity or something else could do, that as they see it, they can go ahead and report it. We're doing also a lot of things with assessors and housing, on code compliance, emergency management, disaster response, you heard me talk about before. Just the list goes on and on and on. And the question that you just need to ask yourself is that in my field data collection today, what am I not collecting because it's too hard and it's too expensive? But also because I felt like I didn't have the right people. And can I use this to enable other people in my organization to go out and get the data that I need? And the answer for a lot of agencies, and these next ones, is absolutely yes. And I'm going to start out with Colorado DOT, because it's one of my favorite case studies, because they really took the idea of Esri Mobile Apps and Spike and said, I love these two things. How can I make these two things work for me? And really completely change the way we're doing mobile field data collection. Because for Colorado DOT, what they said is that actually my number one resource out there that could possibly collect data for me are my maintenance teams. The people that are out there that are every day, that see broken things, a guardrail, a sign, a building with graffiti, whatever it is that might be. How do I equip those people to go out and to report what they see, but also give me information that I can immediately make decisions and then task the right people with the right resources and tell them where to go? And that's where Spike and Survey123 comes in, because what they'll tell you is that it took their mobile field data collection down that circle time, right, from to see it to an action, from months to minutes. See it, make a decision. So what they did was they deployed Spike and Survey123 to go out and measure the dimensions of objects, signage, buildings, facilities. And what they do is that their maintenance people already had phones. So by giving them a Spike, when they see damage like a busted guardrail or a facility that needs attention, they simply take a photo of it, they do a measure of it. Then once they do that measure, then they have everything that they need on that form. They can enter in all sorts of related information such as materials and so on. They submit it from Survey123 into a file geodatabase, for which somebody looks at that and then makes a decision about who is going to address that, what department that needs to go to. And then what they do is that they use the Esri app workforce and navigator to assign and then tell them where to go and manage that workflow. So it's a great, complete end-to-end workflow, from field data collection to decision-making to tasking to navigation. It's great. And that's what we think that, and actually that's what we know that a lot of people are going to. City of Winston-Salem, another great example. This is sign inventory and code compliance. They had made a change in their code compliance about the size and height of signs, and so what they did was they had changed this code compliance. This code regulation, and then they had to go out and inventory all their signs, which, as you can imagine, is thousands and thousands of signs. So what they did was they put it out to bid, and they got costs ranging from $200,000 to $500,000 to inventory every sign in the city. Actually, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. It was like $400,000 or $500,000 to go out and inventory every sign in the city. It's you look at that and you go, wow, this is incredible. But what they did was they said they took Spike and they used Esri and they went out and they inventoried all the signs. And then what they did was that they did this over a period of time. Of course, it took longer than it was to having a third-party contractor, but they estimated saved them over $200,000 to $500,000 in these inventory costs, because they used 4 Spikes, 4 tablets, 4 personnel, went out and did different sections of the city over a period of time, were able to go out and collect this information, tie to a parcel, but then also have a photo verifiable record. Now, why is that important in code compliance? Well, because when you get a code compliance ticket, the first thing that you do is you go, that's not true, that's not me, or that can't be right. But it's entirely different when you have a photo as a part of that report that you get when you say you're out of compliance. And so one of their measures of success was not only how much money that they saved, but also how many people contested. Because when people contest it, there's a cost associated with that. their rate of people contesting, which would normally be in the double digits, in the 12 to 14% range, as I recall, dropped down into the single digits. And because of that, once again, that was a tremendous cost savings. And then the last one that I'll get to here is Carbon County, Utah. Carbon County, Utah estimates that they had a 500% ROI in less than 1 month. And that's not unusual for Spike, because usually the ROI of Spike is somewhere in its third or fifth use. Because if you think about it, the minute that you're not using tall, that you're reducing your time in the field, from 2 hours to 30 minutes, or that you're not using 2 or 3 people out in the field, per day, you're using 1. These efficiencies, or you're not using boom trucks to reach high things, you can see how a 500 device pays for itself. And even if you only used it once or twice a year, it begins to pay for itself pretty quickly. But Carbon County, Utah, in particular, was out and doing locating and measuring assets related to their roads. And normally it would take them roughly it would take them 5 months to go out and collect all this data. With Spike, they were able to do it in 5 weeks, because what they were able to do was take data right into Esri, right into a file geodatabase, see it, make decisions about what it was that they were going to do, what they needed to have it fixed, and it was just a tremendous success story, because they were able to reduce not only their time in the field, but the number of people that they needed to see out in the field, because it was just point, click, shoot, and also replaced about 4 or 5 other different types of data, for other types of devices that they needed to take out into the field. Now we're starting to run a little bit long on time here, so I've got about 2 minutes left. So what I want to do is that I'll skip over this one, but it's an example of utility using this. Number one reason for this is that just not having to get close to the equipment. That's a safety issue. Same thing with transportation. I don't have to stop traffic. I don't have to get involved with traffic. Being able to collect distance from collecting this data from a distance is really, really, really valuable. So the last thing that I really want to cover, and I got just last 2 slides, so if you just hang in with me here, and I'll probably go about 2 or 3 minutes over, and then we'll open up for questions and answers. But one of the things that I hate about people when they go out and they'll do these, hate's a strong word, dislike, when they go out and they do these technology presentations, they really don't spend a lot of time answering the so what questions, and really sort of go, hey, why should I really care about using this solution? What does this make a difference for me in my everyday life? And I always like to take at least 1 slide to do this. Number one is that, and we really believe this truly, is that Spike and Survey123 just make the economics of mobile field data collection better. We just do. And that's, if you've heard me kind of cover ROI, savings in time, savings in equipment, saving it over and over again. It's just about making the economics of mobile field data collection better, because if we can make the economics of mobile field data collection better, that means more data will get collected. And as geospatial professionals, that should really be important to us, because more data that's good, that's accurate, means better analytics, new analytics. But we also deliver a very quick ROI. So you heard me talk about this. I won't do it, and I won't cover all these just to save time, but easy to train is really so important, right? Because anything that's new, there really are 5 things that you should look at within your organization. Does it generate a quick ROI? Yes. Is it easy to learn and simple to adopt? Yes, because it usually takes under an hour and easier to set up to using Survey123. Compatible with what I already use? Absolutely. Mobile devices, iOS and Android, you already have them. Leveraging your usage of Survey123 and Collector. There's no need to use anything else. No need to pay for anything else. You have everything that you need already to be able to do that. But we also increase worker safety, and the solution saves time in the field and the office. And with that, I will wrap it up into a special offer that we have for everybody that was nice enough to join us today. And by the way, there were people that joined us from all over the world, which is always a humbling thing for me. So thank you, everybody, once again for joining. I'll share with you this special offer and then get into Q&A. But for everybody that's on with us today, we hope that you will join our user community and buy a Spike today. Once again, it's a $500 device. We give you a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you buy it, for whatever reason you don't like it, no questions asked, you can go ahead and return it. But I warn you, they never come back. If it wasn't perfect for you, somebody will always find a need for it within your organization. But if you do purchase a Spike between today and February 30th, you'll get yourself a free protective holster from Night Eyes. And so Spike slides right in there really nice. And so it's a great way to carry around your Spike when you're not using it on your mobile device, but also to protect it when you're out in the field. So to get additional information, you can go out to the website, or you can go ahead and feel free to give me a call, because I'm always encourage folks to call, because I love to hear what you're working on, and I love the opportunity to help people. So please give me a call. My number and my email address is down below. But I certainly do hope you'll take advantage of this special offer, and that you'll take the opportunity to join us and the Spike user community. The other thing too that I'll mention is that we'll also I'll be at the Esri Federal Conference, so for any folks on the federal side that you'd like to meet up there, or any Esri folks that are on the line with us today that you'd like to meet up there, just shoot me a note. Happy to grab a cup of coffee, share a meal, do whatever, and just to chat with you. So Vanessa, I know that I'm 3 minutes over, but are there any questions on the line for me?
Thanks, James. We do have a few questions, and for those on the call, if you haven't yet sent us your questions, please do so. First question, can I use Spike to measure tree heights?
You can measure Spike for tree heights, and we recommend point-to-point to do that. So if you envision my Dr. Seuss looking tree that I have here in my office, it's as simple as pointing the laser at the bottom and then pivoting, turning, and pointing the laser at the top. That's the way that we recommend that you go ahead and do tree heights.
Okay, great. Next question. Do you ortho rectify the photo? And if so, what method do you use?
So the answer is that we do rectify the photo. Is it true ortho rectification? I would say the answer is probably no. But we do rectification of the photo by using the components of the laser, the compass, and the inclinometer that gives us the angles necessary to be able to get that started, and the alignment finishes up the process. And so that is a way for which that we align the pixels properly, so that as the pixels are moving away or towards a center point, that they are accurately measured. Great question.
A similar question, and this one is, can I measure building heights?
Yes. So building heights is one of the things that's square in our wheelhouse. So measuring building heights for signage is another one. We also have some cool applications of where we have manufacturers of different equipment that relate to buildings, right? So, for example, if you wanted to measure, the height, one of the most important things, like for example, if you're going to order a crane, you better have the right size crane, right? So, being able to do that with a, have that building height is pretty important. So, the answer is we absolutely do that, and we do it all day long. As a matter of fact, I would hazard to guess we do that hundreds of times a day.
Okay, good. Next question. Can Spike measure the slope of an object?
Slope, yes. So it's actually something I did not cover in point-to-point. So thank you for bringing that up. So one of the pieces of information that we do return is slope, and you would use point-to-point for that. We have a number of public utilities, transportation agencies that'll do that for drainage. So how that would work is, if you can visualize this, is that I would simply stand on the side of the drainage, right? Take a photo of one end, pivot and turn, hit the other side. It not only will it give me the distance, but because of the fact that we're doing that offset GPS location on an XY as well as the Z, we can get that angle. So you can do that. Just once again, know that the accuracy for that is, once again, because we're doing point-to-point, is roughly plus or minus 3%. But what's really cool about it is, and this is something I didn't cover in the webinar, and it's worth noting now, is that we have a lot of people that will use Spike to do that initial field data collection to determine when it's necessary to bring in the heavy equipment, right? So, for example, with that drainage, right, if something, if say, okay, my tolerance is that if it's within, 5%, it's fine, of what it should be, according to the plan, and I measure that with a Spike at 7%, okay, this is something I got to get an engineer on. But if you measure that like, yeah, it's within 2%, good, move on. Because once again, it's about you're using resources smartly, and we like to think that Spike helps people to do that. So another example of that is bridge inspection. So many bridges aren't inspected because it takes engineers and surveyors to do it, and by the way, they should. But how much data could be collected to help make the decision about what priority a bridge should be, that you should send that engineer or surveyor to tomorrow or next week rather than 2 years from now. And so that's another example where Spike fits within a toolkit. What
Great,
else?
James. 2 more questions.
Okay.
Does Spike output Z values? If so, what format would it be in?
So it does output Z values, but it outputs the Z values much like with the with the GPS on the X, Y, and the Z, as far as latitude, and then as far as distance and height and feet, right? So it's not going to be something that's going to be down within inches or so, right? Because once again, we're using a compass and an inclinometer from a smartphone or tablet, so to be able to say that that was precision would not be accurate.
All right, next question. Can you deploy Spike with a drone?
One of my favorite questions that I always have to say no to. The answer is we do not do that today. It is not something that we plan to do in the future. However, I will tell you that there are plenty of entrepreneurial folks that are doing it, or at least trying to do it. So, because the laser does provide some pretty interesting things, right? So, for example, we do have APIs and SDKs that we do make available. So, anybody that is on the line with us that say, hey, I'd like to make a specialty application with Survey123 and Spike, but I want to do something a little bit different, right, or something else. Or hey, I just want to use the laser, and I just want to get the laser information off of there to help me do some of the things that maybe I want to do from a drone perspective. For example, maybe to help a workflow for drone to map, for example, which is another Esri product that's great. We can do that as well, but to be able to do the photo measure is a bit of a challenge, because you need to keep the everything still and trigger the app and all this other stuff. So this is something that we'll leave to a partner integrator to do, but it's not something that we do today, nor will we do in the future.
Great, thanks, James. Last question is around, you mentioned collector. When do you anticipate Spike being able to work with collector?
We are trying to get that done for the start of this field season. So we were waiting for the Aurora release, which came out, and everybody's clapping over, and it looks like a great release. And so we're just getting ready to meet up with the Esri team here, hopefully soon, to progress on that. So we were green-lighted some time ago to do that. Don't hold me to it, but our goal. Don't hold me to it. And actually, I'm not even going to give you a month. Our goal is to get it done in time to impact this field season. So I would hope that it would be done no later than April or May. Could be sooner, could be later. There's just a lot of factors to work out. So it's definitely in the plans. We definitely look forward to doing it. If it's something that's really important to you, we recommend that you tell your Esri rep that you want it, that you need it, because the more people that ask for it, the faster it'll happen. And a lot of these great things that we've been able to do with Esri is based upon our user community that also used Esri that said, hey, we want to see these two things together. So we encourage you to do that as well.
Great. Thanks, James. And we just got a last minute question. Can we squeeze it in?
Sure.
All right. Can Spike be used indoor when an indoor positioning system is available?
So the trick with that is that can an indoor positioning signal make itself available to the Spike app and tell the iOS or the Android device to stop using its own? That's the key piece. It's difficult for me to answer based upon the fact that I don't know much about it, but that would be what I would be looking for, and that's probably something that I would encourage that person to give us a call and say, hey, this is what I'm working on. Does Spike work indoors? Yes, it does. It's used quite a bit indoors, especially for large indoor facilities, like gymnasiums or meeting halls or things like that. Spike is optimized for outdoor use, but like I said, we do have a lot of folks that do use it internally, even by folks like painters, HVAC, drywallers, things like that. People that are just looking for easy tools to be able to figure out, area and then be able to communicate what they want people to do. So All right.
All right, well, that does it. Just a reminder that tomorrow we'll be sending everybody an email. It'll include James's contact details as well as specifics around taking advantage of our special offer. James, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I will just say thank you once again to everybody for joining. Thanks once again to Glenn Latham for being a wonderful host and getting the word out about this webinar today. We look forward to learning more about your applications, and if you have any questions or comments, please reach out. We look forward to learning more, collaborating with you in the future.
Great. Thank you, and have a great day, everybody.